बिहारी जय गोपीजन वल्लभा जय गिरिवरधारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय राधा नील माधव श्री राधा जय लड्डू गोपाल जय लड्डू गोपाल जय लड्डू गोपाल जय लड्डू गोपाल जय जय जगन्नाथा जय बलदेवा जय सुभद्रमा हरे कृष्ण
Thank you, Kavya. Thank you very much. Now, I would like to request Radharaman Das Prabhuji to start the class. You're on mute, Prabhuji. No.
Hare Krishna, can you hear me now?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, bro. New to computers. So, Hare Krishna. So, welcome everyone to our Friday Bhagavad Gita class. Now, as you know, we are discussing chapter 4 at the moment. And today we'll be starting with the verse number 4.9, chapter 4, verse 9. So, before we start, let us do some Mangalachan. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Cheva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet नष्टप्रायेष्वभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतेरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नन्दनाय च नन्दगोपाकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः. So I will start and recite the verse, and then I will request one Prabhuji and one Mataji to repeat the verse. So Bhagavad Gita 4.9. Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo vetti tatvata tyaktva deham punarjanma neti mameti sorjuna. So may I request one Prabhuji and one Mataji to repeat the verse, please?
जन्म कर्म च मे दिव्यम् एवं यो वेति तत्त्वतः त्यक्त्वा देहं पुनर्जन्म नेति मामेति सोऽर्जुन.
जन्म कर्म च मे दिव्यम् एवं यो वेत्ति तत्त्वता त्यक्त्वा देहं पुनर्जन्म नैति मामेति स अर्जुन. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
You are on mute, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Okay?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu. So, Janma, we are looking at word-to-word meaning. So, thank you to Prabhuji and Mataji for reciting the verse. So, word-to-word meaning, Janma, birth, karma, work, cha, also, may, of mind, divyam, transcendental, evam, like this, ya, anyone who, vitti, knows, tatvatah, in reality, tyaktva, leaving aside, deham, this body, punah, again, janma, birth, na, never, eti, does attain, mam, unto me, eti, does attain, sa, he, Arjuna, O Arjuna. So, translation and purport. Translation and purport by His Loving Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. So, one who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving this body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. Purport. The Lord's descent from his transcendental abode is already explained in the 6th verse. One who can understand the truth of the appearance of the personality of Godhead is already liberated from material bondage, and therefore he returns to the kingdom of God immediately after quitting this personal present material body. Such liberation of living entity from material bondage is not at all easy. The impersonalists and the yogis attain liberation only after much trouble and many, many births. Even then, the liberation they achieve, merging into the impersonal Brahma Jyotir of the Lord, is only partial, and there is the risk of returning to this material world. But the devotee, simply by understanding the transcendental nature of the body and activities of the Lord, attains the abode of Lord after ending this body, and does not run the risk of returning to this material world. In Brahma Samhita 5.33, it is stated that the Lord has many, many forms and incarnations. Advaitam, Achyutam, Anadim, Anantarupam. Although there are many transcendental forms of the Lord, they are still one and the same Supreme Personality of Godhead. One has to understand this fact with conviction, although it is incomprehensible to mundane scholars and empiric philosophers. As stated in Vedas, Purush Bodhini Upanishad, Eko Devo Nitya Leela Nurakto, Bhakta Vyapi Hridaya Antaratma. The one Supreme Personality of Godhead is eternally engaged in many, many transcendental forms in relationship with his unalloyed devotees. This Vedic version is confirmed in this verse of Gita personally by the Lord. He who accepts this truth on the strength of the authority of the Vedas and of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and who does not waste time in philosophical speculations, attains the highest perfectional stage of liberation. Simply by accepting this truth on faith, one can without a doubt attain liberation. The Vedic version Tattvam Asi is actually applied in this case. Anyone who understands Lord Krishna to be the Supreme, or who says unto the Lord, you are the same Supreme Brahman, the personality of Godhead, is certainly liberated. Instantly and consequently, his entrance into the transcendental association of the Lord is guaranteed. In other words, such a faithful devotee of the Lord attains perfection, and this is confirmed by the following Vedic assertion. tamev viditvati matyum eti nanya pantha vidyate yanya. So one can attain the perfect stage of liberation from birth and death simply by knowing the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And there is no other way to achieve this perfection. Shvetasvatara Upanishad 3.8. That there is no alternative means that anyone who does not understand Lord Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead is surely in the mode of ignorance, and consequently, he will not attain salvation. Simply, so to speak, by licking the outer surface of a bottle of honey, or by interpreting the Bhagavad Gita according to mundane scholarship, such empiric philosopher may assume very important role in material world, but they are not necessarily eligible for liberation. Such puffed up mundane scholars have to wait for the causeless mercy of the devotee of the Lord. One should therefore cultivate Krishna consciousness with faith and knowledge. And this is the way to attain perfection. Hare Krishna. Bhakti Vedant purports ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So let's do Mangalachan. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savaducham Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Sya Ye Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Aptakanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarobhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyev cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Uter Mahadve Yahima Puro Vibhur Nirma Yashete Yadamushi Purusham Umte Gunancho Dasisodasatmaka Solang Krishishtan Bhagavan Vachamsi Me Shri Krishna Sharanam Sharanagatam Kathamritam Satatapivatam Bhakti Vedanta Margapantanam Sarvalok Rishi Deva Janna Prasannam Sarvalok Rishi Deva Janna Prasannam. So, Hare Krishna. So now we can see Lord Krishna is now telling Arjuna about his personal nature, or we can say he is telling him about his birth, his activities. And because Arjuna is his dear friend and devotee and he is surrendered to Lord Krishna, he is telling him the most confidential knowledge. And this knowledge is not the material knowledge. This knowledge is spiritual knowledge, or this is beyond the logic of material world and material activities. He says that my birth, meaning appearance, and karma, meaning activities, so janma, karma, are divyam or spiritual. This cannot be understood in the materialistic context. So Lord Krishna's spiritual appearance and activities are very vividly explained by Srila Sukadeva Goswami in Srimad Bhagavatam. And we're going to have a little bit of look at that, magnanimous appearance of Lord Krishna in Mathura. So Srila Sukadeva Goswami says that the Supreme Personality of Godhead appears out of his own sweet pleasure. Nobody can make him appear anywhere. So whenever he wishes to appear, he will only appear there. And in material terms, we call that birth. But for him to take birth, he does not need a mother or a male and a female to come together. He can appear through the nose of somebody, like he appeared as Varaha Avatar through the nose of Lord Brahma. And similarly, he appeared through a stone pillar as Narsimdev. And he was not even a man. He was half man and half lion. So he can appear whichever way he wants to appear, and he can appear wherever he wants to appear. It cannot be called as birth, but in material terms, we call it birth. And when Lord Krishna appeared in the jail of Kamsa, the astrological influence of the star known as Rohini was predominant. And this star is considered to be very auspicious. And it is under the supervision of Lord Brahma. And according to the astrological conclusions, besides the proper situation of the star, there were very auspicious signs at that moment. And they were all due to the various planetary systems aligning in that way. And at the time of Lord's birth, all the planetary systems aligned so that everything became very auspicious. All the directions, east, west, south, north, everywhere, there was an atmosphere of peace and prosperity. There was auspicious stars visible in the sky, and on the surface of the earth, all the towns and villages and pasturing grounds, and within the minds of everyone, there were signs of good fortune. The rivers were flowing full of water, and the lakes were beautifully decorated with lotus flowers. Not like these days, somewhere there is bushfire, somewhere there is flood, and somebody is enjoying sunlight. So the forest, but at that time, the forests were full of beautiful birds, dancing peacocks, and the wind that was blowing was very pleasant. And that wind was carrying the aroma of different flowers. And the sensation of the bodily touch of that wind was very pleasing. And at home, the Brahmanas, which is very important, who are accustomed to offering sacrifices in the fire, found that their homes were very pleasant at that time actually. And due to the disturbance caused by the demoniac king Kamsa, they were not doing the sacrificial fire so much, and they have stopped. But now they found the opportunity to start the fire peacefully. And being forbidden to offer sacrifices, by Kamsa, they felt free and peaceful in their mind, and they started their intellectual activities, which is, chanting the Vedic hymns. And on the auspicious occasion of appearance of Lord Krishna, they started making the sacrificial fires. And all the denizens or citizens of our higher planets, they started showering flowers on Lord Krishna, and they started singing and dancing prayers in the service of the Lord. And there were so many great signs. Even the great sages and demigods, they were very pleased, and they also began to shower flowers. And on the seashore, it said, Srila Sukadeva Goswami described, the sound of my waves were very mild, and there were clouds in the sky who were thundering very pleasantly. So this birth of Lord Krishna, it cannot be the birth of ordinary, child who starts crying, and people are running here and there. Everybody is stressed out. What's going to happen? But Krishna's appearance or birth was very pleasing in so many ways, as I just described. And it was all happening due to the divine moment that was about to pass. And things were adjusted in such a way that Lord Krishna, who's residing within the heart of every living entity, appeared in the darkness of the night as the Supreme Personality of Godhead before Devaki Mata in Mathura in a jail of Kamsa. And he appeared as a four-handed form with all the four main items: Shankh, Chakra, Gada, and Pushp or Padma in his hands. And Srila Prabhupada explains that Lord Krishna appeared in Chandravansha. So Chandravansh is the dynasty of the moon. So this made the moon god very happy. And it was the dark Paksha of the moon, or Krishna Paksha as we call it, and it was 8th day. But the moonshine was like as if it is a full moon day. So some people get bewildered how it is possible. It is possible because Lord Krishna was appearing that day. And as I described, Lord Krishna was appeared at the time the constellation was Revati. And it is confirmed that the child born at that auspicious moment is Supreme Personality of Godhead, Supreme Brahman, or the Absolute Truth. Now, Devki's husband, or Lord Krishna's father in that pastime, was Vasudeva. And he saw that wonderful child born as a baby with 4 hands, holding conch shell, club, disc, and lotus flower, decorated with the mark of Srivatsa, wearing the bejeweled necklace of Kaustubh stone, dressed in yellow silk, appearing dazzling like a bright blackish cloud, wearing a crown bedecked with the Vaidurya jewel, valuable bracelets, earrings, and other ornament on his body, and he was beautified by the abundance of hair on his head. Normally, when the child is born, they have very little or no hair on their head. But due to this extraordinary features of the child, Vasudev was struck with wonder, and he was thinking, how could a newly born child be so decorated? And then he then carefully considering it, decided, oh, the Supreme Lord has appeared now. And he became overpowered with the occasion. And so Vasudev very humbly wondered that although he is an ordinary living entity conditioned by the material nature and was externally imprisoned by his brother-in-law Kamsa, that all-pervading personality of Godhead, Vishnu or Krishna, has appeared as his child in his home and exactly in his original position, like four-handed form. So he was very overwhelmed. And this birth or this appearance cannot be any normal birth. So it is Janma Karma. So it is Divya Janma. Okay? Janma Karma Chame Divyam. And no earthly child, you know, that is born with 4 hands and with so much decorations. So over and over, Vasudev thought and glanced at his child that he considered now how to celebrate this auspicious occasion. But he was in the prison, and so he wanted to give many thousands of cows in charity to Brahmanas. But because he was in prison, he was shackled within the walls of Kamsa's prison. So it was not possible. But then he mentally donated the thousands and thousands of cows to the Brahmana. This shows that the appearance of Lord Krishna was surely divine. And when Vasudeva was convinced that the newborn child was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he bowed down to him, a father bowing down to his child, newborn child, with folded hands, and he offered very nice prayers to Lord Krishna. See, this is the divine appearance of Krishna. That's what we need to understand. And that's what Srila Sukadev Swami Goswami is trying to explain to us. And at that moment, Vasudeva became completely free from all fear of Kamsa. And the jail room was shining brightly with the effulgence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And I will just read a little bit of what he prayed to Lord Krishna at that time. He said that one has to understand your appearance with great intelligence because the material energy is also emanating from you. You are the original source of material energy, just as the sun is the source of sunshine. But the sunshine cannot cover the sun globe, nor can the material energy, being an emanation from you, cannot cover you. So Lord Krishna is above and beyond this material world. Although he is appearing in here as a child. So all what we are trying to understand is his birth is divyam or divine. So although the Lord appeared in this material world, but he's never covered by it. His body is not materially made. His body is spiritual. So here Vasudev is trying to say that although Lord Krishna appeared on this earthly planet, but this material world does not affect Lord Krishna. And he is spiritual. So Janma Karma Chame Divyam. And then he described so many features of Lord Krishna, Nirgun, Shuklam, his appearance, and so forth. So we are not going to discuss that all in here. And after him, Devaki Mata also, offered very nice prayers to Lord Krishna. And this is normally not done when a child is born. People are, very tired and in pain and all that. But Devaki Mata and Vasudeva, they were very happy. They lost all fear of Kansa at that moment. And normally, Devaki was very frightened because his brother has already, killed his previous children, 7 children, or 6 children actually. So she said, "Oh my dear Lord, your eternal form like Narayan, Lord Ram, Hayashirsha, Varaha, Narsimha, Vamana, Baladev, and billions of similar incarnations emanating from Vishnu are described in the Vedic literature as the original. You are the original because all your forms and incarnations are outside of this material creation." So she offered very nice prayers. We are not going to go through all those prayers. And after hearing the prayers of Devi, now this is very important. The Lord is talking to, or the child is talking to his mother and father, right? Just at the birth time. And because he is the Lord, he can do that. So he said, it's very wonderful. I can't stop reading this part of in Krishna book when I was preparing for this class. So Lord Krishna said, "My dear mother, in the millennium of Swayambhu Manu, my father Vasudeva was living as one of the Prajapatis, and his name was Sutpa, and you were his wife named Prishni. So that's why at that time when I was born from you, I was known as Prishni Garbha. And you controlled your senses and performed severe austerities, and by going through so many yoga system, and you tolerated the severe seasons and all the heat and cold, and you stuck to your religious principles. So this way you were able to cleanse your heart and control the influence of the material laws. In executing your austerities, you used to eat only the leaves of the trees that fell to the ground. And it sends shiver into my heart, like when I hear people doing such kind of austerities. So, and she continued then, the Lord continues then, and then with a steady mind and controlled sex drive, you worshipped me, desiring some wonderful benedictions from me. Both of you practiced severe austerities for 12,000 years. And that's by the calculation of demigods, not earthly years. During that time, your mind was always absorbed in me. And when you were executing devotional services, you always were thinking of me within your heart. I was so much pleased with you, O sinless mother. Your heart is therefore always pure. And at that time, also I appeared before you in the same form, just to fulfill your desires. And I asked you for benedictions, whatever you desired. And at that time, you wished me to have as your son. So although you saw me personally, instead of asking me for your complete liberation from the material bondage, you just asked me to become your son. So in other words, to appear in this material world, the Lord selected his mother and father, named Prishni and Shutpa. So whenever the Lord comes as in human form, he must, select a mother and father so that it appears that he is appearing, or he is taking birth. So he selected Prishni and Sutapa to be his mother and father. And in the next birth, they both were Kashyap Rishi and Mata Aditi. So at that time, Lord appeared as their child, and his name was Upendra. But at that time, Lord's form was very short, or he was like a dwarf. And for this reason, he was also known as Vamandev. And on Vamandev, we have known as Vaman Kshetra. So he gave you, or Lord is saying that I gave you the benediction that I would take birth as your son 3 times. So the first time was known as Prishni Garbha, born of Prishni and Sutapa. And the next birth, I was Upendra, born of Aditi and Kashyapa. And now, for the 3rd time, I am born as Krishna from you, Devaki and Vasudev. And I have appeared in this Vishnu form just to convince you that I am the same Supreme Personality of Godhead, taking birth again from you. So Lord Krishna all 3 times first appeared as in 4-handed form to his mother or his mother. And he says that I could have appeared just like an ordinary child also. But in that way, you could not have believed that Supreme Personality of Godhead has taken birth from your womb. So that's why I'm showing you my 4-handed form. And then, my dear mother and father, you have therefore raised me many times. This is not the first time. That's what the Lord's trying to say. And I'm therefore very pleased and obliged to you. And I assure you that this time you shall go back home, back to Godhead. And on account of your perfection in your mission, I know you are very concerned about me and afraid of Kamsa. Therefore, I order you to take me immediately to Gokula, and exchange me for the daughter who was just born to Yashoda. And we know the whole story, how Vasudev carried Krishna on his head, and there was Anant Shesh, giving him like shelter, like umbrella to save from the rain that was falling at that time. So it's obviously, there shouldn't be any doubt in anybody's mind that all this is what? It's light. It's the Leela or karma of Lord Krishna. And it is not ordinary. It's divya. And whoever understands this becomes perfect in life, or he attains Krishna Prema. But there shouldn't be any doubt in anybody's mind. So now it is said that in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishna's illusionary energy is compared to darkness. And when Krishna appears, like the sun, the darkness goes away. So we all know that story, how when Krishna appeared, all the prison doors opened and the shackles of Vasudev, loosened, and he took him to Gokul. So, and when he reached Gokul, everybody was asleep. Even all the guards and everybody was asleep. They were very deep asleep. And he exchanged the Krishna for the Yogmaya, who was born there as a daughter to Yashoda Mata, and then brought back her to the prison. So Kamsa would not have any doubt that the child was born, but he has been, put away by Vasudev somewhere. So it's Prabhuji and Mataji, please understand that this appearance and activity of Lord are divine. So they are Janma Karma Chame Divyam. And whoever understands this knowledge, Tyaktva Deham Punarjanma. So when he leaves his body, he doesn't take birth again, Punarjanma. And what happens to him then? Neti Mam Eti So Arjuna. So he is telling Arjuna that whoever understands this comes back to me and forever lives in Golok Vrindavan. So we'll have a look at the next verse, text verse number 10. वीतराग भय क्रोधा मन्मया मामुपाश्रितः बहवो ज्ञान तपसा पूता madbhava agata. So I will request one Prabhuji and Mataji to recite the verse, please.
वीतरागभय क्रोधा मन्मया मामुपाश्रितः बहवो ज्ञानतपसा पूता मद्भावमागतः
Mataji.
वीतराग भय क्रोधा मन्मया मामुप्रशिता बहवो ज्ञान तपसा पूताम भागवत्वा.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you, Prabhuji. So we will look at word-to-word meaning. Vita, freed from. Raga, attachment. Bhaya, bhaya, fear. Krodha, and anger. Mat maya, fully in me. Mam, in me. Upashritaha, being fully situated. Bahava, many. Jnana, of knowledge. Tapasa, by penance. Puta, being purified. Mat bhavam, transcendental love for me. Agata, attained. So translation and purport. Translation and purport by His Loving Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. So being freed from attachment, fear, and anger, being fully absorbed in me, and taking refuge in me, many persons in this past became purified by knowledge of me, and thus they all attained transcendental love for me. Purport. As described above, it is very difficult for a person who is too materially affected to understand the personal nature of the Supreme Absolute Truth. Generally, people who are attached to the bodily conception of life are so absorbed in materialism that it is almost impossible for them to understand how the Supreme can be a person. Such materialists cannot even imagine that there is a transcendental body which is imperishable, full of knowledge and eternal bliss. In the materialistic concept, the body is perishable, full of ignorance and completely miserable. Therefore, people in general keep this same bodily idea in mind when they are informed of the personal form of the Lord. For such materialistic men, the form of the gigantic material manifestation is supreme. Consequently, they consider the supreme to be impersonal, and because they are too materially absorbed, the conception of retaining the personality after liberation from matter frightens them. When they are informed that the spiritual life is also individual and personal, they become afraid of becoming persons again. And so they naturally prefer a kind of merging into the impersonal void. Generally, they compare the living entities to the bubbles of ocean, which merge into the ocean. This is the highest perfection of spiritual existence attainable without individual personality. This is a kind of fearful stage of life, devoid of personal knowledge of spiritual existence. Furthermore, there are many persons who cannot understand the spiritual existence at all. Being embarrassed by so many theories and by contradictions of the various types of philosophical speculations, they become disgusted or angry and foolishly conclude that there is no supreme cause and that everything is ultimately void. So here Srila Prabhupada is referring to Buddhism. Such people are in diseased condition of life. Some people are too materially attached and therefore do not give attention to the spiritual life. Some of them want to merge into the supreme spiritual cause, and some of them disbelieve in everything. Being angry at all sorts of spiritual speculation out of hopelessness, this last class of men take to the shelter of some kind of intoxication, and their affective hallucinations are sometimes accepted as spiritual vision. One has to get rid of all three stages of material consciousness: attachment to material life, fear of a spiritual personal identity, and the conception of void that arises from the frustration in life. To get free from these three stages of material concept of life, one has to take complete shelter of the Lord, guided by the bona fide spiritual master, and follow these disciplic and regulative principles of the devotional life. The last stage of the devotional life is called bhava, or transcendental love of Godhead. According to Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.4.15 and 16, the science of devotional service is आदो श्रद्धा तथा साधु संगो था भजन क्रिया ततो अनर्था निवृत्ति स्यात् ततो निष्ठा रुचिस्तता अथा शक्तिस् ततो भावस् तथा प्रेमाभ्युदंचति साधकानाम अयम प्रेमण pradurбhave bhavet krama. So in the beginning, one must have a preliminary desire for self-realization. This will bring one to the stage of trying to associate with the persons who are spiritually elevated. Hopefully, we are trying to do this at this moment. In this stage, one becomes initiated by an elevated spiritual master, and under his instructions, the neophyte devotees begins the neophyte devotee begins the process of devotional service. By execution of devotional service under the guidance of the spiritual master, one becomes free from material attachment, attains steadiness in self-realization, and acquires a taste for hearing about absolute personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. This taste leads one further forward to the attachment for Krishna consciousness, which is matured in bhava, or the preliminary stage of transcendental love of God. A real love for God is called prema, the highest perfectional stage of life. In the prema stage, there is constant engagement in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. So, by the slow process of devotional service, under the guidance of the bona fide spiritual master, one can attain the highest stage, being freed from all material attachments, from the fearfulness of one's individual spiritual personality, and from the frustrations that results in void philosophy. Then one can ultimately attain to the abode of the Supreme Lord. Bhaktivedanta Saraswati ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So in the last verse, 4.9, Lord Krishna told Arjuna that whoever understands him and his activities comes to his abode or achieves Krishna Prema. And in this verse, Lord is explaining how to understand him and how we can achieve Krishna Prema and go back home, back to Godhead. So Lord Krishna says here that one has to become free from rag, bhaya, and krodh, or vit rag, bhaya, krodha. So rag is attachment, bhaya is fear, and krodha is anger. And then you have to surrender to Lord Krishna, and Krishna will purify you by his knowledge about him. And then one achieves the Krishna Prema. But for an ordinary person, it is not very easy to give up all this so easily, as I said, so easily. Why? Because we have been conditioned through many birth times, many lifetimes in this material world. We have been taking birth, dying, taking birth, dying, taking birth, dying, and we are getting used to the ways of this material world. And as there is a saying, old habits die hard. So it's not going to be easy, Prabhujis and Matajis. And Srila Prabhupada says that it's an impossible task for a conditioned soul to understand that there is an eternal living being who is the source of everything and everyone. It's very hard. We are used to master, lord upon these items. This is my house, my car, my children, my this, my that, I, me, mine. So that is the materialistic philosophy. And it's very hard to understand that nothing is mine. Everything belongs to someone else. So similarly, this body is a temporary covering, like we wear pant and shirt or saris or any clothes we wear. And when they become dirty, we take them off and we put new clothes on. Similarly, the spirit soul, who is using this body as a covering, this body is like the clothes, it's perishable, but the soul is not. The spirit soul is eternal, like the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Lord Krishna, whenever he appears in this material world, does not take a material body. That we need to understand. His body is always spiritual. Only the living entity, although we are part and parcel of Lord Krishna, but we have to take the material body. But still, we or the soul is eternal. And Lord is also known as Satchidananda, as Lord Brahma says in Brahma Samhita. Ishvara Paramakishna, Satchidananda Vigraha, Anadiradir Govinda, Sarvakaran Karanam. So he is Satchidananda. He is absolute knowledge, he is absolute bliss, and he is eternally existent. And Lord Krishna in this verse is saying what? Vit Raga Bhaya Krodha, Manmaya Mamupashritaha. So how we can detach ourselves from this material attachment, this Vit Raga? Because when we are attached to something, we are always in the fear of losing it. And if somehow or the other, that thing, even goes out of our sight, we start becoming angry. The attachment is so strong. Once we think that it doesn't belong to us, that fear of or that feeling of attachment should start, going away. And this material enjoyment, which we get out of this attachment, is also not permanent. For example, if I like gulab jamun, how many I can eat? By the third and the fourth one, I start feeling, oops, that's enough. I don't need any more. So this is our position on account of this material body. So therefore, spiritual culture means how to get out of this attachment, and then which will lead to getting out of the fearfulness. And then we won't get angry. And only when we lose these three things, then only we can start understanding Janma Karma Chame Divyam. If we have the material attachments, if we have this Raga, Bhaya and Krodh, we cannot understand Lord Krishna. We cannot advance in Krishna consciousness. We still have to use the material objects, but just for survival. We don't have to think that they are everything. And Krishna consciousness is like a side activity on the side. That's what we have to avoid. So we have to become free of this material attachment. And that's only possible if we start following or take shelter of a spiritual master or get into the association of devotees. As Prahlad Maharaj says in Srimad Bhagavatam, I think Canto 7, chapter 5 and verse 23 and 24. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Pada Sevanam Archanam Mandanam Dasyam Sakhyam Atmanivedanam Idipam Sarpita Vishnu Bhaktischainav Lakshana Kriyeta Bhagavatadyadda Tanmaye Jitamuttamam. So Prahlad Maharaj is giving us the formula to achieve this freedom from bhaya, krodh, and rag. He's saying that in this human life, perfection can be achieved by hearing and chanting the holy names, form, qualities, and paraphernalia and pastimes of Lord Vishnu, remembering them, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, offering the Lord respectful worship with 16 different types of paraphernalia, offering prayers to the Lord, becoming his servant, considering him with the body, mind, and words. So, manasa, vacha, karma. And these 9 processes are accepted as pure devotional service. One who has dedicated his life to the service of the Krishna through these 9 methods should be understood to be most learned person. And for he has acquired the complete knowledge. And that's another problem we have at the moment. We are not given the spiritual knowledge when we are getting the knowledge in schools. The schools only gives us only material knowledge or material education. No one teaches us the spiritual knowledge. No one teaches us about the Lord. And this is only possible in this human form of life. This is the highest achievement one can make in this lifetime, not Elon Musk type achievement, becoming a billionaire or a billionaire. So after all, because we have to follow the strict laws of the nature, and it is very difficult to surpass the material nature laws of it, especially the 4: birth, death, old age, and disease. Janma, mrityu, jara, vyadhi. We cannot go around them, and the whole idea of these 2 verses, I would say, is to get out of this old age, death, birth, and disease. So all the advancement which the world has done in scientific field in this modern age, they are not able to find the solution of these 4 problems. They may find a new medicine for a disease, but they cannot, get rid of it forever. It'll keep coming back. So what we do, we have to become Krishna conscious. We have to start chanting. And when we do chanting, what happens? It purifies us from inside. And we become vitragi, or we become free of attachment. And when there is no attachment, there is no fear of losing anything because we don't attach to anything. And when there is no fear, what happens? Krishna is near. And not only near, but very near. And we become dear to Krishna. And that is the perfection of life. Puta mad bhavam agata. So we are purified and we are mad bhavam agata. We have achieved the love of Godhead or Krishna prema. I am trying to get in that direction. So I can only say that. So in other words, we can say that these 2 verses are the basis of the perfection of life. And all one has to do is follow the 9 processes of devotional service and chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So thank you very much, Prabhuji and Matajis. I think now Riva or Kavya is going to sing Narasimha prayers. Is that right, Prabhuji?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sadhu. Hare Krishna Prabhu, 1 second.
It's okay, Prabhu.
Wake up. Okay, you can do National Press now.
Namaste Narasimhaya Pralabaladayine Ito Narasimha Palato
Ito Narasimha Parato Narasimha नरसिंहवदं
शरणं प्रपदे तव करकमलवरे शाखाम् अद्भुतशृङ्गार ललिता हिरण्यकशिपूर अनुगृह्णाति
You can start.
जय जगदीश
Now, Jai Jagadish Hare, Jai Jagadish Hare. You can continue from the continue.
Jaya
Narasimhadev Jaya, Narasimhadev Jaya, Narasimhadev Jaya, Narasimhadev.
Jaya Maharaj Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Gurudev 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jai Gora Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gora Hari Bol
Narasimhadev Bhagwan ki jai. Sorry, Prabhuji, she just wake up from her sleep, so
It's okay, Prabhu. That's very nice. Anyways.
she was already sleepy. Already
Okay.
sleeping, actually, not sleepy.
So, all right, we're going to stop here. If anybody has any questions, please unmute yourself and ask.
Very
Okay,
nice stuff, Prabhuji. Thank you very much.
So, श्रीमद् भगवद गीता उपनिषद की जय, श्रीला
जय।
प्रभुपाद की जय,
जय
देव की जय, अनंत
जय
की वैष्णव वृंद की जय, निताय
जय।
गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि
हरि
बोल।
हरि बोल।
His Grace Radha Raman Das Prabhuji ki
जय
सामवेद भक्तवृंद की जय,
जय।
श्रीला प्रभुपाद की